Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, April 8th, approximately 3:30 in the afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting of the Board of Water Commissioners to order. First order of business is to approve the minutes of March 10th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes, March 10th.
Second.
I can't.
No, March 10th was the meeting. Bud wasn't.
I will.
Oh, okay, then I'll second. Okay, then those are the ones I read that was at. Okay.
Moved, seconded, and voted to approve the minutes of March 10th, 2025.
Clarification, didn't we have other minutes that were approved? too?
Yeah, but I forgot to put them on the agenda.
Okay,
So
next
just
time.
do it at the next time.
One thing I'd like to take out of order is we talked about it, we verbally approved it, but we did not take a formal vote on the department budget for FY 26. I have a motion to approve the FY 26 departmental budget.
So moved as submitted.
Yeah, it's 2,146,598.
Second that.
Moved, second, and so ordered to approve the budget for FY 26.
And I noticed on the paperwork that you had here, the one change was to the debt service. There was a small change in
There
debt
was a
service.
small change in debt service, and there was a change in the, what do they call it, indirect costs, the shared costs for the town.
Okay.
Who made that motion? I'm sorry.
Bob made the motion.
Bob.
And I seconded.
Okay, thank you.
Going on to the appointments, Kristen Berger, it's always good to see you.
Thank you. Yes, back in person again.
Yeah,
for a
nice
change.
to have a nice warm walk down
Yes.
Main Street today.
Well, it was good, at least it, stopped raining. So
Mhm.
they were, nervous there, but a little bit wet and then able to walk most of the route without the rain interfering, so, which was helpful because, you have to reference a plan sometimes, it's nice not to have the rain to the plan. So we did meet out on site with Chris and I and Mitch with, the contractor, both, representatives from CC Construction, Lawrence Lynch, COT, and the police. So we walked the entire stretch and discussed the limits of the work. Is in addition to the 2-inch mill and pave work, there's some gate boxes that need to get raised, some sidewalk patches. Sean Stockton from DOT was going to check back with his office because we noticed some big safe markings in the sidewalk on the route. So he was thinking, that there might be a sidewalk project that they were doing. I'm not sure if it was another utility doing something. So he's going to check on that and get back to us because it doesn't make sense for us to do repairs and then have someone else come along and rip everything up.
The one that's only the sidewalk and we get the roadway done.
Yeah.
during April school vacation.
Absolutely, yeah. So then that's still the plan with everyone, that work would start April 21st. We're gonna meet again next week remotely, just to touch base, once we know what the weather's looking like. It was conveyed to them by us and the police that the priority, if there's issues with weather, the priority is the south side of the Jones River with the impacted schools. If weather causes any issue and work has to extend to another week, that it be the other side that's not impacted by the school.
What did they decide to do as far as the off-ramp was concerned?
So we submitted the permanent amendment request to DOT in February for that. And the water department paid, there was a permit fee, you have to pay for that. That got paid, and I've been asking Sean to check on it because we haven't heard yet. I did go on to the DOT SHAPS online permitting database. Noticed that there was a draft to that amendment, but I couldn't, they wouldn't, wouldn't let me view it, it was access to that. So we suspect that it's close to being approved, so I asked Sean to help move it along because we need to know, it impacts scheduling for a state police detail.
Right.
Sean suggested that a message board be posted on Route 3, giving a heads up about the ramp shutdown, which is only going to be a matter of
2 hours.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, normally that would get posted, a week or two before. And I'm like, well, I don't want to have to post the sign before we have the amendment approved.
Yep.
That's kind of weird for us to just
So,
Yeah.
take that, yeah. So I'm like, we need to know, because it's, the 21st is coming up here pretty good. So that's moving along. Once we get through that, paperwork, there'll just be some punch list items, moments Eve kind of work to dress up the impacted yards along the route. But yeah, that'll be it. And hopefully that all gets done. I'm still watching the cost on that. Stacy gave me the updated cost remaining of the project. Reran the numbers, assuming that we use up all the remaining paving quantity that we planned on, and we still owe them work for that change order due and the retainage, and then setting aside money for police details and my time just closing it out, and there still appears to be sufficient funds for the work. So keep a close eye on that. Yeah, so that's hopefully will be all wrapped up soon. Next on the list is the new well project. Or let's talk about that one-stop grant application first. The expression of interest is submitted. There was some feedback given by the state that you might have an impact.
which tab is this?
It's in the, I think it's the third tab. That goes in order of meeting agenda, so it should be underneath the email from
Yeah.
Kathleen Barrett and Kristen.
It looks like this.
Second page, yeah.
In general, their response is that the project would best fit with the MassWorks infrastructure program. And they noted some requirements for the project to be competitive. Otherwise, you're just not going to get the grant. They did note that vertical construction is not eligible for this particular grant program, so it's only horizontal construction. I'm assuming that it would fund like Chapter 30 projects, so the well itself would be installed under Chapter 30, but the pump station would be from Chapter 149. So that's not eligible. That's kind of the bulk of the cost. But it wouldn't be normal to break up the water main part from, usually it's typical to have the well get installed by a well driller contractor, and then the pump station with the water main go out to bid as a separate project. So we need to think about that some more, about how we could craft that. We could keep the project kind of all together like a normal way, like we normally would, and they just would fund all of it. That'd be one at a time. If they were only interested in funding the water main portion of the project, we could separate that out on a bid tab so it's clear. This is the MassWorks guides. In any case, for the grant to the application to be competitive, the design, they want to see that at least 25% design and permitting point. We're really not at right now, but we might be able to spin it that by the time the grant was awarded. So they also need to leverage private development that's imminent and connected to the public improvements. The most competitive grants include a 25 to a 50% match, which I think you would be good if you were like, well, yeah, we've got to pay for the pump station building, so that's more than 50%. And then for contracts, for the applications that they would accept this round, contracts must be executed by June 30th of 2026. That would be for the construction, so that's a little aggressive. And then it has to be completed 3 years from that date. So it could be a case where it's better lined up for the next year, but we should still talk about it because you can always apply more than once. So, by applying this year, even if they don't award it, we can get feedback from them. So how can we improve it for next year?
Almost like a dry run.
Yeah, But we certainly need to still like meet with Val and to talk about the development projects that we could link to.
And that's the key, I think, getting information from her, I'm sure she's got the list.
Yeah, I spoke to Val. It's bugging her here, so.
Okay, good.
Yeah, if you can send her what we got back from that.
Absolutely.
So the application for this, I write down on this, but they, I looked online, they have April as their month for be able to ask them questions, like they have this window here where you can ask them for input, seek their guidance. Once they release the request for applications, for grant applications, they won't be able to answer. That's, they have that opening in May.
Office hour sessions?
Yeah, so that, well, and then the entire month, I think they had, they can answer questions and call them. So the applications that we do, it's coming up, it'll be pretty quick. That's something that we can try to fine tune.
Keep an eye on
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing for the, well, they got an update from Time Builder. They are gonna be stopping by tomorrow with the well driller to be able to do a site walk with Chris, to go look at the test wells that were already installed. Part of the first step is to have them do a pump test on the test wells that were already installed.
Did Marvin's well?
No, it was Sullivan
Okay.
and some other people.
But not Marvin. That was that group.
Yeah, but it's okay.
It shouldn't be
Yeah.
problematic.
No. Yeah, they do this kind of work all the time themselves, so. So once they do that, currently with them doing that, pump test, Kleinfeld said they're gonna start doing the site exam and pump test proposal that will get submitted to TP. They're planning on that going in by late May. DEP will take a little bit of time to review that. There's usually some back and forth questions that they have. So Kleinfelder expects that will take pretty much a few months for them to kind of get back and forth with DEP about, and they're expecting the next phase to start in September. So, but they're saying in parallel effort, they're gonna have their consultant mobilized to do the wetlands flagging and then the survey work. So that'll be going on at the same time that this request for site exam is being done with DEP. They gave us an updated schedule. As you know, yeah, this made for, I think, 11 or 17. Easy good eyes. They updated the schedule, as we lost a few months at the start here, just with the contract, getting that negotiated and all signed and everything, so they updated it based on that. They're now showing, let's see, finishing their bid docs and all the permitting by November 2026. So that still puts you in line for if the project gets SRF funding, that deadline for applications and the design to be done is in October. So they'd at least be able to get the application in. They might have to supplement with final design documents, something like that, but you can always do that. It's not too far off. And then usually you take DEP, SRF takes a few months to review the application before they give permission to advertise, as we've seen with the treatment plant projects. So I would expect that would get issued sometime around January or February, and then you can do the bid phase. You know, with it being a building project, there's filed some bids and the GC bids. And then you have to review stuff, get it to DEP for SRF approval. So that whole process takes like 3 months. Then you'd be looking at, I would say, at least like a year for construction, and then maybe a few months at the end before DEP gives approval to activate the well.
28.
Yeah. Some
Late 27.
28, no, I think 2028 is more realistic. Because if you're looking at starting construction by like June 2027,
Yeah.
So you're really talking
And-
4 years from now, roughly.
yeah, 3.5,
Three,
maybe,
yeah.
3.5 to 4,
Well,
yeah, we're
that's good.
still in that time frame
Yeah.
of that 3 to 4 time frame.
Yeah.
And there's some like expediting that can be done with DEP's review times during the permitting process, but they are somewhat hands tied with what's written in the Mass General Law for it. It needs to be a minimum of this many days for this step. Wait for comments back.
But if you stayed on minimum days all the way through, there was some time saving there.
Yeah, there might be a little bit, a few months that you could shave off.
But that's really dependent on DEP.
Yeah, and if you don't end up getting the SRF funds, you know, you save some time there, but just gotta fund it.
You gotta fund it
Otherwise-
somehow. Still gonna have to fund it through town meeting.
Yeah,
It
right.
doesn't make any difference where the funds come from. The initial funds have to be approved through town meeting.
So, but at least they're moving, things are, you know, happening, you know, they got their contract signed, they gave us their updated insurance that they renewed in April 1st, and you know, they got the next F9, everything's filed with the accounting. You know, everything seems to be all set with the financing end, so I think we're past that hurdle, and now just gotta get through the project as quickly as possible. So, good sign that they're at least getting out right away, with getting out there to do this initial
Yeah.
field work.
Yes.
And, yeah, we'll just keep on them about asking for updates and scheduling some kind of checking meetings. Probably good to have like a standing, at least monthly,
Okay.
twice a month kind of check-in meeting that we can have with them remote.
I remember when we were evaluating contractors to do this, one of the things that I thought was very important was performance, getting things done on time or early. And I was sold by Kleinfelder that they had the capacity to do that, which is one of the reasons I voted for them. So I hope they stay on top of it, do what they said they were gonna do, because that's, again, we're backs against the wall, we need to get this one online, and the sooner that they do the stuff they gotta do, the better.
Yeah, I know they had initiated getting their subcontracts with Mara Services, who's the welder, and then with the surveyor before they had the final contract signed. 'Cause they
I
did
saw
wanna-
that, and then I think that's important, especially with Mara, because there's not a whole lot of drills.
Right, yeah, to
So
be
they
on
need
their
to-
schedule.
Need to get them set up.
Right. So we'll do that, we'll schedule, I can send around an email to the group and just say, okay, let's, you know, think about days and once it gets on the calendar.
Yeah, maybe we have a meeting if there's some significant movement with anything.
We can always skip a meeting, but if we at least get it on the calendar, then it's there and it's kind of, what kind of helps.
Gives
The
pressure on them.
accountability,
Yeah, gives pressure on them to get something done by that time.
yeah. Yeah, it's tough when you go to a meeting and you're like, yeah, we didn't make any progress, so.
And let's say we meet, you know, if there's a site visit or something, you know, really gets on site. If way it'll be.
Okay, so that's that, and let's briefly talk about the CCR, what call report.
Very, very comprehensive water quality report.
Thank you. The updates this year, in addition to the water quality, primarily on page 2. Last year, we had an update about the new treatment plant. And I replaced that box with a little paragraph about the new water supply well. So let me know, like, read that,
Okay,
and then
Sure.
this third paragraph down, water service line inventory, that was something that's required by the state to have in the CCR, so we got that requirement checked. Yeah.
Yeah, there's only one.
And then for the PFAS, I did have to tweak that language because in 2024, we did have one result that was slightly over 2 parts per trillion, which is the minimum that detection limit. So previous years, all year ago, it was less than 2. So this year's the first year, it was, one reading that was 2.56. That's for PFAS 6. That's the summation of 6 contaminants. So it's still low.
Anybody who really wants to know what's going on with their water, that's what I tell them. Thank you.
Oh, well. So, yeah, if you take your time to read it, we have some time here. Stacy, when were you looking to get this
We
finalized?
have to have it, we usually do it in and around the time of June bills, so we usually get it done by mid-June.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Earlier the better, but, because I'd like to give him as much time to do it, we do have a for done for us.
The same way with the other stuffing, I think, or-
No, it's totally separate, it's a separate mailing.
So if you see anything else in there, just let us know. Stacy, I'll send you the copy that I have. And, if you need any tweaks, just let me know. That's what I have.
So you got,
That's it.
we'll move on to the next appointment. Mr. Donahue.
Good evening, good afternoon, actually. Thanks for taking us on the agenda. Dave Walsh, our superintendent. And for record, I'm Brian Donahoe's supervision. The reason we're here is primarily to talk about the water moratorium and the effect it's having on the sewer commission, particularly our budget going forward. It's having severe effect. We've had this discussion a little bit before we were doing our rates and we were doing the rates, and that came up as a talking point. But as we get into the cost payment back for the betterments on the SRF for phase 2, which is the last 2 tanks and all the upgrades that were done, and simultaneously the leaching field, which is operational now, we're just waiting to use it. Our ability to actually open up for business really became real within the last 3 months. At the same time, going through our budget, payback requirements for the SRF, it became clear that we really need to be able to open up new water connections to complement that growth we need. We have, as you may recall back historically, we ran out of space in the treatment plant around 2006-07. People fighting to get in. The second 2 tanks were supposed to be under construction around 2010, 2011, but for all kinds of reasons, the economy, mainly 2007-8, we had the recession and a lot of things changed, all kinds of stuff. But, so here we are, 2017, sewer commission at the time got into putting that upgrade, which was all part of a facility plan approved back in 1999. So we're just completing the second phase of what was approved and documented to have to be done 25 years ago. And I have to say, looking forward, looking back and looking forward 25 years, we did a pretty good job of budgeting this thing and being pretty much on target. However, here we are with the problem. And the moratorium really makes that difficult because we can't get hookups. We can't get the revenue. We can't get, it doesn't help the tax rate either at the town. So that's kind of the overarching reason that I'm here for the sewer commission. When the issue of the last meeting with the selectmen a couple of weeks ago, the issue came up that this was now potentially going to be 6 or 7 years in the future. And that really got our attention because we were able to move with this a little bit in the interim, but now we really can't. So I'm coming here to offer an opportunity to have us work together and come up with a solution that does several things. And I know I've had a chance to talk to all of you a little bit about this. And I drafted what I think is a comprehensive outline for an administrative consent order and or a letter from DEP. The idea here is that DEP will work with you, particularly in the town, to set aside, well, first of all, identify what you've done, why you've done it. I've used the word, tell the story, the nonfiction story of how you got to where you are, how the well was delayed, all these things that are really important to your perspective. But also tell the story of the sewer commission, another really important environmental project that happened to be colliding, so if you will, with this budget issue. And so the outline of this draft is to get, and I've talked to DEP that I've actually went to the regional director, Gerard Martin, who I know. And as you may know, I worked with DEP for 10 years. There's a lot of respect for them, and they have a lot of respect for me. So I'm here to offer this opportunity to start the discussion and try to move this kind of solution quickly. That does several things. What's like I said, tell the story. How do we get here? Give you the comfort to eliminate the moratorium with conditions. It's not like carte blanche, you're just going to change everything. But give you the kind of basis for making a decision rationally with all the technical input we need and get to a place where DEP is looking over your shoulder a little bit. Say anyways. But understanding that you're going full tilt now that you have to contract out for the well in the pump station, you're going forward due diligence wise. That's to solve the problem that you anticipated many years ago, and for whatever reason was delayed. To tell that story again. But at the same time, recognizing our dilemma of the sewer department in the town, really, it's a town. Is it? If we can't come up with the revenue, the town's going to pay for anyways, and that's not a good thing for anyone. We would much rather be in a position as an enterprise account getting the betterments to pay the debt in a rational way. Have the benefit of having that opportunity, but we can't do it without water connections. So this outline, and I'll stop talking after a minute here, is meant to talk about that process. How do we get to that point? Also, I'm glad you gave me the schedule, because I looked at the original schedule and we had it in August of next year, and now it's about November. But I think one of the other benefits of this document is that DEP will be focused on your project a little bit more than they might have been. And they're also helping with the SRF process and any other grants. Because they're going to raise this up to a level where they understand there's an issue. We're properly gone to them. It's not them coming to us. This is not a consent order penalty, which if that's when that pissed off at you, then they come and give you something. But that's not the case. You've done your good work and we've done our good work. And this is a way to get a lot of emphasis on these guys, all of us, need this thing done sooner than later. Help with the expediting, the permitting, help with the expediting of SRF. Anything they can do to get us sooner than later. No. The schedule isn't that critical, really, when you think about it. It's a matter of having, as Chris and I talked about, having the geotechnical issues to make sure the wells that you have cover that concern you have of having enough water at any time in the.
And the conditions under which they'll take
Well,
place.
let's not move too quickly, because we've been years to where we are now. We're not gonna solve this problem overnight. We need to do this consistently with a great deal of thought and a great deal of planning to do it correctly.
Yeah, we do have to.
We need to make sure that we're touching base, not with DEP in Boston, because we need to make sure that the DEP in the regional office is also online with what DEP in Boston said. Too often, if I've been involved with enough politics and enough state and city government and town government to know that sometimes things are said at a higher level that don't get transmitted either verbally or in writing to the person that's actually doing it. So we need to make sure that everybody is playing on the same playing field.
That's exactly what I'm going, but that is exactly what this is talking about. It's gonna take you beyond that point, but it will be in writing, it'll be done fairly quickly. It'll set the tone fairly quickly to get us, so that everything is in writing and everything is supported by DEP. Not only want to act people in Boston, but the regional office. I talked to the regional office already. And I don't see any lightning rod point here. There is gonna be some work to do. We have to sit down with them. I'm not saying we're not gonna do that. But I'm here to underscore the urgency that we have and the town has to get this resolved. We are before the town now reluctantly with a kind of a miniature override to cover at least the next year on the leaching field. We hopefully won't have to go beyond that, because if we get these betterments in and we start paying the note through those funding sources, we won't be here year after year. That's the alternative. I mean, the wastewater treatment system is a real asset to the town for a lot of reasons. I mean, it's put in it, and I brought this along just in case something is. This is, we've gone through a lot of auditing. This is the sewer system that we have. I sent this to you and I. This is an updated. And one of the things I did when I got back on the commission was to see where we were. We're going through an audit. Fortunately, we have the benefit of all our staff. Obviously, we're going to get Erin Renoit to help us from the planning board. She's going through a lot of the details with our administrative staff. This is all the lots that are to be sewered or were sewered. Everything in green is something, an area that has not been sewered. We didn't have capacity. And ironically, if you look at the Plymouth Town Line area, that big green area, that was there, that was going to be on the sewer immediately. They fought to not be on it because there's a new condo complex up there. They bought themselves some time, which is 20 years for a new septic system, but not the Cadillac septic system, the Volkswagen one. And ironically, for the first time in 10 years, Gray's Beach picked up E. coli. And all these beaches along the river for the first time. That was last year. And I've been working with the Board of Health agent to focus on that, but that kind of underscores again the urgency of getting the sewers hooked up where we can find these sources that are now raising their head. Because again, we're only 50% done with what was approved and expected to be done in 2010 or 12. Okay? And then the other areas that you'll see on the left here in this outset, that was the reason we put a pump station up on Route 106. At the time, the South Street well field there was pretty prominent. It's still prominent, but the water there didn't have any nitrogen. The last CCR you did showed around 2.5 parts per million. The reason that pump station was there to put the sewers and encapsulate everything around that well field, including the mobile home park, which is only half as big as it was at the time. They've sold half of it. But again, you have really substandard septic systems, all kinds of problems. I see the numbers going up. You see them going up. That's why we don't have 5 years to fix this. The sooner the better. So the urgency is environmental, public health. A lot of reasons why we're anxious to move this thing forward. And then the last part up in the top there, that's in addition to what was originally planned, but it was a highlighted area. This is the Town and Country Mobile Home Park. Again, they're on their own wastewater plant, but they have a real problem with it. They've come to us and we have a written agreement to help them when we get a chance to do it, which is as soon as possible. It was also highlighted in the last the Damon study by DEP. This is one of the low-hanging fruit nitrogen reduction put places we can grab within the capacity we have in the sewage treatment plant now. I always like to point out, the day we opened our sewage treatment plant and started collecting sewage was the same year that Island Creek Oysters was able to open, because we took away the source of contamination that was making them not. So we helped Duxbury. They don't like to hear me say this, but that's the truth. So the town of Kingston really, we have a $65 million capital investment for that plant, and we want to see it filled out because it's going to help this town grow correctly along with 3A. We're not
And
talking about
clean the water.
and clean the water and keep it clean. In our last annual report, I started to put down the calculation of how much nitrogen we remove every year. And Dave gives me his numbers, we do the calculation. We're taking out, what is that? 150, 50-pound bags of nitrogen every year that would have gone to the Jones River or into Kingston Bay. Don't think of it, it's as big, it's as high as this room, a 10-10-10 fertilizer that would have gone in, but now it's not. So we've all done a really good job. I'd like to see it keep going and work with you to get this done. But again, this is an outline to get us there faster than possible, than otherwise possible. Stop it.
Is the rest of us, the sewer commissioners agreeing?
Absolutely. I'm the other side.
Okay.
Chris, I had a question about what's your take on the consent order stuff with the DEP? What do you think? So now we made our moratorium based upon how much we're pulling out and the major well goes down and all that. What's your take on ability to execute something like this?
Yeah, so right now, you don't meet their requirement of the maximum day demand with your largest well offline. So that gives them something to refer to that's in their requirements to say, you're not meeting this, this is why we're doing the consent order. That's what they could refer to. That's
Exactly.
really it. So it'd all be based around that requirement.
'Cause I think adding that to the statement of facts that we put ourselves in a voluntary moratorium because we knew the issue. I think would be something to add, and we're trying to do what's right. If we ask for, is this asking for kind of an exemption from them?
No,
temporarily, while we do the right thing?
It's not an exemption, but this is a very good point. What this is doing is two things. It's recognizing your good jurisprudence, your good efforts to go forward voluntarily. They didn't do it to you. You did it because you thought it was the right thing to do. You found a good guidance. So this gets them to the point where they, hey, you guys are doing the right thing. They love it when you're doing the right thing. They don't like to come and enforce anything, particularly municipality. They don't have to. So this gives them the way to say, okay, Kingston, thank you very much. You're doing a good job. We understand that problem. And this is one of the geotechnical issues that Chris and I talked about. Let's look at the withdrawal of the other wells. Let's take that hypothetical, one well goes down and we have to do something. If this is only a 2 or 3 year period, even your own schedule is 2 or 3 summers, if you will, 2 or 3 winter, summer dry periods where this is more critical than not, let's put it that way. And they said, okay, we understand that. So I put down here, leak detection, to deal with those the kind of things that are easy that you can do, you're doing anyways. But just put together a schedule and take that one issue and say, okay, we understand that you're in excess of what your withdrawal is under this scenario that we're concerned about. But you're doing the right thing. You're going forward. We're going to help you expedite that well installation and get it running because we know how good it is. I asked them how many other conditions like this they have. There's none that I can find up in there. They have all kinds of problems in the Cape. That's a whole different issue.
The problem is, when we go back to what DEP has said, as far as one of the major wells down, and that's basically 3 wells. It's not the South Street well system because one, they're not on any one of the treatment plants. So we don't really consider them as a major well site. So we got Trackle Pond, I-86, and Grassy Hole. If we lose one of those for any prolonged period of time, what's that do for us to be able to supply potable water to every single resident in the town of Kingston, not just the ones that are on sewer today or may want to get on sewer tomorrow. We need, to my feeling, we need to make sure that we provide potable water for every single resident that's on the system now. And that's one of the major reasons we basically put the moratorium in, is we were reaching that point of critical level pumping over the demand that DEP has said is correct. And if we're there on a regular basis, to think that we may have a mechanical issue, not just a power line, that shuts a well down for a prolonged period of time. I'm not talking about 12 or 24 hours. I'm talking about days, weeks, or whatever it is till we get it back. What type of recourse do we have to supply one, potable water and fire protection for every single house, not just the ones hooked up on the snap, but every single. So that's where I am, and I'm saying unless Chris and Kristen can convince me that in fact we can live with one of those three wells completely offline for a period of time, not 24 hours, not 12 hours, until they can tell this board that we can survive, I'm not sure that we want to agree with this consent order. So that's why I'm saying we need to allow them, now they've looked at this, they've had some time to talk to you and talk to Dave and Chris talk regularly anyways. They know what the issues are. We need to give them the time to evaluate what this says and know that we're going forward in the best interest of every single person in the town of Kingston.
Realize this is an outline, there's a lot more detail,
I understand that.
and I'd be happy to talk with your folks here to expedite that and get that clear.
Kristen, if we instituted a outside watering ban, complete outside watering ban, no lawn, no filling your pools, no washing your cars, about how much water is that gonna save? You have any idea?
I don't know, you recently did the ASR, you might know off the top of your head, max day versus like average day or something like that.
I have to back with the.
Because what I'm thinking is, first of all, we would need a catastrophic event that we haven't had in a while. And since I've been on the Board of Water Commissioners, for it to kick that in, should it kick in? And I think this is what Bud's talking about. Okay, now what do we do? Okay, we've looked at the moratorium. Now what do we do? And if there's other things we can do to fill that gap, because I remember that graph you gave us where the red line goes
Yeah,
across,
right.
to lower that down. There's lack of use, if we restrict use, will it lower it down below the red line?
But let's be realistic. You know, we
There's
have a
no
group,
way to
we have a
enforce
group of men and women who work for this department that one, don't wear badges and don't wear guns and don't wear chest protectors. To think that just because we're gonna say nobody turns on the outside faucet and you're gonna drive up to Indian Pond and watch all those lawns go brown or any place else down in Conifer Green, you think they're gonna go brown, you might as well walk out that door now because you're not being realistic.
Again, the expectation that we're going to have that catastrophic event, in my opinion, is not high. But should it happen, and we were looking at a period of months, weeks, months, a year, where we have one of the three major sources offline, can we reduce use enough if we had to? If people understood what it meant, it means lack of fire protection. It means there are people that won't have water because you put water in your pool, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, you're right. The enforcement of it would be tough. But again, it's going to take a catastrophic event that I haven't experienced in the 30 years I've been here. So it would take that catastrophic event, and if it's a catastrophic event, I think a substantial number of people in the town would be aware of it and would respond accordingly. Maybe I'm an idealist.
Would the natural consequence of overuse be just lower pressure? We're looking at failure in certain zones in the town in terms of delivery.
Yeah, if you had a significant drop in system pressure, you're gonna have catastrophic failures all over the place, which is just gonna be, gross loss of water. And then recovery time is just gonna be tremendous to try and refill the government tanks.
Mm.
It's almost like the risk versus benefit. I don't feel is there, and as Bud mentioned, the enforcement of it. We can't get people to follow the mandatory or voluntary water restrictions to try and conserve water. And I see that our pumpage will go way up. It'll million and a half gallons in summer. It'll go up because people won't adhere to those, and we do the best we can. We go up, we can't notice it. Hey, you're in violation. They don't care. Find me. I don't care. My grass is gonna go green. They don't. They care with themselves.
But again, it will take a catastrophic event that I haven't experienced since I've been a water commissioner over a 2-year period, roughly a 2-year period.
2 or 3.
2 or 3 year period.
That's 2 or 3 something. Well, it'd be this summer. next
Yeah,
summer,
and it's
summer.
summers, because it's not an issue in winter time, so it'd be an issue just in summer.
It's becoming more and more of an issue as we have more and more usage, at the mall, what are we pumping average today? Compared to what the,
Average right now, this time of year, 20 years ago, we were pumping 800,000 gallons. Now we're pumping 1.8 million. So up 1 million gallons in 15, 20 years.
So, like,
And
competing catastrophic,
our summertime right now, you're up to almost 3 million gallons a day.
we have competing catastrophic events, and then we have obviously issues with the sewer payments on their bonds. We have issues with the moratorium and business here. Is that enough to put ourselves at risk, we're small, of a catastrophic event if we go this route? What kind of events are we talking about that would put the water system offline for food to
You could have over pumpage. You're not giving these wells time to rest. In the summer, these wells don't rest the way they used to because they're all running. They're running to meet the demand. And your over pumpage is going to destroy a well. You'll lose a well.
Do we have a warning signs for that? Do we have in terms of what's the level there, or is it just a recharge rate? that we have to
It'd be
get?
similar to what we just did with Crackle Pond. It'd be clean. The well keep failing out. It can't recharge and regenerate itself
What about
faster.
when we cleaned out street, we couldn't find a track one?
Plus, I just saw Trackle Pond, with having Trackle Pond well down, having a run stuff from Elm Street, or from Souls Pond Booster Station to supply the high zone. That's a critical balance right there. Once you start losing a well, you lose that well. It's mobile pumpage. Chris and I were talking earlier. You start. It has to have a chance to get rest, literally kind of relax and rejuvenate itself. When you constantly pump it nonstop, that's not how it's designed. It's not how it's permanent or approved.
So I guess, Chris, you gotta put a lot on you here in terms of what's the risks of doing something like this. What are some of the things, a proactive watering ban entirely, even though it might not be entirely followed, at least it will reduce some amount.
But you gotta look at that double-edged sword. If you're gonna restrict the outside usage for growth, now that outside usage is being applied for 24/7 year-round consumption. So you just took this to put it over here.
But for not forever, for a short period of time until the well goes online.
That's a critical piece there. It's only for as long as the new well isn't up and running. So I'm looking at this, expedite the new well and have DP out of that decision, out of that process. It's on money as well as on time. And then be prepared as best you can for what hasn't happened. Again, this is postulating hypothetical. But in the sewer side of things, what we're required to do, and I'm not sure if it's on the water side, I'm not familiar with it. Let's say it's a well goes down. Cleaning, that's one thing that takes time. If it's actually a pump that goes, we have to have a spare pump to put it in right away. That's kind of, it's a 2 or 3 week outage. It's not months and months and months. But again, it's hypothetical. But do you have that kind of situation? Or I guess the pump's too expensive, you don't have that.
You don't have spare pumps.
Yeah.
Pumps or well motors, pump motors sitting around.
Maybe that might be a way, and again, that might be a way to address that issue, to have.
It's not cost prohibitive. Each one is application specific to each well.
Yeah, no, I get that, but just have,
We need to have a place to store it, and it's nothing that we.
It's a long,
Yes.
type thing, so it's not just a small pump.
me and
No,
Craig
I
do it.
understand.
It's something
I
that we
understand.
can do in-house, it has to be contracted out.
So it comes down to, do the townspeople want to pay more for the bond service on sewer department? Do they want to take on that risk of all of a sudden if we, don't, postpone the moratorium or take it off in some way, to pay more there for or if we do, possibility of a catastrophic failure that might cause some short-term or medium-term
I'm willing to bet the
stability for water service.
majority of the ratepayers believe right now, if you were to ask them, that a catastrophic failure of the well would create a massive problem now. If you ask them, that's what they'll tell you. If we lost one of our 3 best pumping stations for a 2 or 3 month period, what do you think is gonna happen? And they'll tell you, there'll be water moratoriums everywhere. How can we survive without that? Unaware of the fact that DEP requires you to have a water system in place that can handle that. So I guess if there's a concern about whether people are gonna get behind this, I understand. I mean, I've driven down the streets and watched people watering at times they're not supposed to water on the wrong side of the road and stuff. Sure, I get that. Make it a catastrophic event. I think people step up in catastrophic events more than they do under normal circumstances. And if you're normally restricting water use because it's summertime and we don't want to use too much water, and they'll listen to you, nod their head and water their lawn. But if you're telling them it's a catastrophic issue, that's very different, from my perspective, very different than routine, year by year, water moratoriums that we put on, et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, again, a catastrophic event that I've never experienced in all the years I've been a water commissioner, and all the years I've been in town.
Would you roll the dice then, and then if something happens, then go to the public, or do you let the public know ahead of time and say, we're going to take some chances here to make sure we can keep things solvent or things like that?
My
what's the
take,
best?
my
Yeah.
take is full disclosure,
Mhm.
because people at town meeting, you tell them, this is a decision we're making to allow for growth so that we can pay for the sewer, so that all these people that want to hook up that need to be paying taxes into the town of Kingston so that we're not in this catastrophic financial situation we're in. The price for that could be, in a catastrophic failure, we're gonna tell you not to use water except what's absolutely necessary in your house. What do you think people would say? Lower taxes because I don't have to pay for the sewer? More businesses that can hook up so that we now can start generating more revenue into the town? I think that people would buy in very easily. I think that's one of the easiest sell. Put me up there and I guarantee you I can sell it. So.
Don't bet on it.
So another facet of this is putting, it's a consent vote, it's something that the town is agreeing to with DEP. And when you get into the town meeting issues, now you have maybe different than before, you now have the selectmen having this kind of an agreement that they're part of. They're part of this. And it makes the kind of things that you've had to deal with before less likely.
This is the same selectman that voted against the approval to take the land by eminent domain years ago and continue to speak
Maybe
against
they're
the
not
water
same
department.
Not all
They're the
of them.
same selectman for the
Not all
long
of
time.
No, things change though, but
Yeah.
things change, I mean, but this again, gives you another quiver in your bow that you didn't have before necessarily.
You can put all the quivers in the bow you want. I'm here to protect each and every resident that's now a resident in the town of Kingston, or a business in the town of Kingston, not somebody that may want to come to the town and build a new building. I understand that, and I understand the need to continue to allow growth. But growth without control is not good, and what we're asking here
So,
is women, as I understand, we're asking here to lift the moratorium so whoever wants to build can build and they can hook up so they can hook up to your sewer.
No.
That's not the way I'm looking
no,
at it.
that's not true.
I'm looking at it no matter where the service is. It can be on Route 27 at the Pembroke line, not anywhere in here. It can be on Main Street that you don't even put water, you don't have sewer on, going down Main Street, right up.
That's not our
Yeah.
choice, that's the last time, don't ever say that again. Don't ever say that again to me.
Wait a minute, Brian, That's the fact. That's the fact of whoever did it at the time chose not to put sewerage down Main Street because it was for whatever reason.
Don't ever say that again.
Why? It's still true.
This is the plan, this is what we're working towards. That's what the problem is. If you don't do this, we are going to be going back to the town for a lot of money that they shouldn't be paying for. These are my customers,
Mhm.
okay? You have yours, I have mine.
Yep.
This is what we're trying to solve.
I
Don't forget
understand
it.
Would I mean, talking about the moratorium, obviously building anywhere is, we could lift moratorium only for areas that have access to sewer, is that correct?
That's all I care about.
that. You can't do that.
Can't you?
Well,
I don't know.
How
legally
can you?
But bear in mind, the moratorium purpose is not to stop building. People can build,
Yeah.
they can build all they want, they just put in a private well. And that's been a misconception that's been projected, and it's frustrated me to a lot. Because people think that this moratorium stops the building. The moratorium purpose is not to stop or restrict. or
You
limit
cannot
building in
put a
any
well
capacity.
for a business on Route 3 that's gonna satisfy the water needs. It ain't gonna happen. The reason the sewer is there, because the soil's crappy, it's clay and it's rock. You're not, that's what we're trying to get you to focus on. It's Route 3A. It's the places that are zoned for commercial land. We're not talking about just anybody. We already have it happening. This is about taking care of the water contaminated areas of town. It's that map. It's one, not even 1/4 of the town, but it represents a huge amount of capital that this town can get to solve your problem and ours.
I mean, we don't exist in isolation here. I mean, if in an ideal world, all we're concerned about is the water quality. But we are part of this town, and if we can meet the needs of other parts, I would like to do so, but only if we have assurances that we can handle that. If that well goes down, or how we need to have those plans in place so that if the worst case scenario does happen, however unlikely, that we can deal with it. That'd be the only way I could live with it.
And that's what I'm saying, Luke, Kristen, and Chris to look at it, work with Dave, figure out what the way to go forward, if we can go forward, with whatever way we can go forward. Not just sit here because we've got a draft proposal that may not solve the problem.
I think we know what we need to do then.
And also bear in mind too, that, we're still in a drought condition, throughout the region. So then that's limiting, restricted too.
All of these are important points. That's why I'd like to continue the discussion with your technical folks, put myself in that position with you, to talk about this in the right kind of forum, go over some of the ideas I might have that get you to where you need to be. I mean, you know the water system better than I do, obviously. But I've been doing this a long time. I have been doing this a long time. There are ways to get this resolved.
So we need to put you guys together to talk this through and see what you can come up.
I'll volunteer to meet with you guys, but I can't do it during the days, but unless someone else wants to join in with that.
I do it.
I think Bob and I probably ought to step back on Bob Rollins and Donald, Kristen, and Brian.
If I could just add a little piece to this, I've just been trying to listen to everyone's point of view. And the water side is very new to me, just hearing some of the stuff is very valuable, I appreciate what I'm picking up today. And like Ryan said, we do have obviously a financial obligation for our upgrades to the plant and new leaching fields. So I look at some of the stuff that happens throughout town and some of the timeliness, how long it takes for certain things to happen. And I see that you guys are working your way towards that as well. And if I'm hearing this correct, we're looking at something like June of 27, somewhere.
No,
Yeah.
28.
June of 27. So
Maybe later,
Maybe
28,
later, yeah.
yeah, 29, even if things.
So we're looking at.
I would say like the end of 2028, so December 2028 should be safe.
Yeah.
Okay. Up and running, kind of.
Yeah, that it would be like a DEP approved, you can activate the pump station.
So somewhere in 3 to 4 year range. If you look at today, if you decided to do some development, by the time you do the permit, process and start putting shovels to the ground, building it out. Imagine that itself, by the time the project's completed, you're at least a year out. Something like that sound about right.
Certainly past this one.
So some of those pieces are actually coming together at that point. You've got a 3 to 4 year window on your end of completion. If someone started something today, they're still a year out. So now you're closing that down to a 2 to 3 year window. So some of your liabilities of concern of not being able to supply water to everyone for a greater period. At least that window, if you take the 2 outliers away, you shrunk it down by a year. And I don't think tomorrow that all of a sudden you're gonna have everyone jumping on board and start building up. It's gonna be a gradual, slow process. So it's just my opinion that it's not gonna be someone throwing a switch, that all of a sudden we need this huge demand for water. It's gonna be a process on both sides. The build out plus us even getting customers in. So I'd just like to throw that out there too, just food for thought, that we're not, talking tomorrow that if we decide to go forward and everyone agrees through the committee that this is the way to go, that you're not immediately gonna be at a point that, hey, we gotta shut everything down, no watering, nothing. It'll be a slow process. You
What's
might
the-
get a trickle in. over
If you don't
time.
mind, what's the legal liability to the board in the town for lifting a moratorium only for sewer area?
I think that's the same question. Is that fair and equitable? Is that fair and equitable to everybody? I mean, you have project that's going on in the old Anderson's junkyard. He wants town water. He can't get town water. He's starting to do his project with private wells, so that's what he can do. So how can you tell that, tell that wants water, needs water for fire protection, then no, you can't have it because you're not on town sewer, but the folks the other end of town that are on town sewer can get water. I think that's opening yourself up to a major
Well,
legal
we need an
battle.
opinion from town
I
council.
would agree, that would seem to be unfair to.
And
the whole.
that's basically where I was going. Your residential units in the rest of the town aren't gonna be large in number to begin with. But if you have a multifamily building being put up in town, the demand is gonna be greater. But that doesn't mean just because it's greater, that they should go to the front of the list, and the guy that's trying to do the ADU unit in his yard for his mother-in-law or for himself can't get hooked up because he can't get served.
Yeah, sure. I thought I heard someone already floating the idea of looking at for commercial purposes. That to me is the same issue then.
No.
You wouldn't be able to do that either.
Oh, I think we need a ruling from town council on whether that is in fact legal or not, because we can talk here all day about it.
Yeah.
We're not lawyers.
And I think Elaine, even when you had your earlier meeting, was questioning whether or not there was a legality of doing it strictly for commercials, slash sewer hookup, that, it sounded illegal then. It sounds illegal now. And again, the demands may not be that great for the individual residential. But to try and say, no, you're on this side, you don't work, you're on this side, you do.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that.
And I think you raise a great point, that
I'm just saying
even
development
if
in general is a.
even
slow
if we
process.
ultimately come to an agreement, and then we tell Val, we've got this agreement, we tell the town, we've got this agreement, by the time paperwork and processing goes through, we're a year out anyway.
For this,
No, I'm talking about if something like that is approved at some point, from the date of approval to a commercial development of any size, you're a year out anyway.
this is never intended to be just commercial. I mean, it's only for the areas in the sewer. That's
Yeah.
what we're looking at. We weren't trying to, I wasn't trying to stop anything. So that point is
Yeah.
really not the table. What we have to be able to do though is as a business development, not a single family house, a thousands and thousands of gallons of water need, let's put it that way. Some big project, there's lots of vacant land along with Ray that we've had people come to us and there's no water, so they don't do anything. We would have the benefit of those betterment costs, or additional ERUs as we call them. We have to put that out there very soon, so that the idea that Dave was mentioning, that the process can start. Like, we might not get there to actually hook up for a year or something, but if we don't put it out there, we're just marking time, and we don't have that luxury. And we didn't set this up this way as much as you didn't set it up this way. It's just the way it is. So I'm trying to bring issues to the table for both of us, both of our commissions to focus on. This is not easy, but we've got to get some resolution.
So I want to see, like, from Kristen, the feasibility of, you know, entertaining something like this, but also want to see the legal aspects. I think if we had a limited supply, we'd still have to prioritize it somewhat. So I can't see that being just outright illegal not to
Yeah, we need a
select
legal
certain
opinion about
locations
what we
that
can
are
do, what we
allowed.
can't
You know,
I'm suggesting a limit of how
Yeah.
much we have.
I think both aspects, the legal and the engineering side, we want to get some information on. I think we can.
We should do that jointly with the town council.
No, we'll reach out to Joe, we'll reach out to town council and see what he says as far as what the parameters of the moratorium are, and if we lift it, can it be lifted to whatever extent it can be lifted.
I think you gotta just proceed with extreme caution. You have the May post-court project that's been an argumentative point for years. And we don't have the capacity to supply them with water, and that's been our statement. Because of the moratorium, we don't have the capacity, and then if they're on town sewer. Now suddenly you have the capacity. That's not gonna sit well with any attorney. So I mean, you say that down the Main Street corridor, there's not enough water quality, enough water supply to meet the demand for commercial occupancy. Look at our surrounding communities of Plimpton, Carver, Middleborough. They have wells, they have cisterns, they have fire pumps. Look at El Knife. There isn't enough fire flow down at their facility. They have a fire pond out front to meet their fire flow demand. So there's other avenues that those commercial occupancies can pursue
That's fine. I agree.
at their peril, at their expense, to meet that fire demand, you know, fire protection or storage, or whatever. You look, any commercial occupancy, look at Cisco. They're on a well, they have their own small tank to meet their water, potable water demands and their fire protection demands.
But the areas that we're talking about do not have that capability for vast amount quantity of water, given the same reasons why there's sewers there. You know, there's no.
Can you say that with certainty through a hydrogeological survey report?
I got a whole bunch of them for the area we're talking about, why we have the sewer in the location it's in.
I was just saying, you get different water qualities at different depths. So different the town wells, we have deep wells, deep gravel packed wells for a higher quality, higher yield.
Well, again, we'll talk about the geotechnical issues that really relate to the wells at this point, so that we can come up with an answer. That either we can or we can't. We can't, we have a whole different problem.
There's many different hurdles that get slammed this shut. You know, let's find out what those are. They exist or not.
Thanks for your time.
Do I have a motion to set up a subcommittee of Kristen, Dave? Yep. Bob?
I'll move that.
Second,
Second for voters.
All right. Let's see.
Let's finish the update.
We need to discuss that, and we'll have to follow up on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Brian.
See you later. All right.
Update on yours.
All right, so update for me, we have the upcoming sanitary survey coming, it's scheduled for the 15th. Site visit all of our facilities, and hopefully everything should go for that. The guys are doing a great job getting things trapped in order and necessary reports that are pulling together that they've asked to review. That we're in good shape for that. With South Street generator, as mentioned previous meeting, South Shore generator had come out and said that the generator was inoperable and out of service. I went out, evaluated it, made a couple of contacts, the generator seems working fine this time. It's in auto, I've exercised it every time it started up, so I'm unsure. I've got to call into South Shore Generator to speak to the technician to see what his findings were. Outside of that, so we're following up with them. As far as the FCC license goes for our skater equipment, there was a conflict we were dealing with Eversource Electric and the radio frequencies. We have the FCC license in hand now. I just received that today. The updates have been performed last week, so everything is on the new frequency for any further interference, potential interference with Eversource energy. So glad to have that.
Just a question on that. Is that the new radio system where you now have to listen to every department, or is that been
No,
rectified?
no, that's just for our SCADA communications for
Okay.
the system to operate. Laurie and Stacy were doing a fantastic job with the shut-off program, sending out letters and, in via mail and in person with the guys hand delivering letters. And we have a very good recovery from that.
So it looks like
and
there was
so
no shut-offs.
we've had a few.
Mhm.
Stacy can maybe will speak a little clearer on that.
Yeah, we just had one that's already shut off for the building part, because it's vacant. We had one, and as soon as we shut off, they paid. which we had one. But no, everybody's been pretty good. Everybody's been pretty good about developing a payment plan and following through with it, or paying it full.
We getting considerable revenue?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I've got $100,000, I sent out $100,000 worth of shut off letters, and I received about 50% of that so far, of the ones that have already come due. So, sent out another group today, and so this through the end of the month. So,
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your diligence.
Well, the program has been working out very well. It's frustrating sometimes for the residents, but
Frustrating for the staff sometimes too. So
yes.
give them credit as well.
The office staff has done a fantastic job getting the bills together and out and dealing with the delivery bills. So. Other than that, that's all that I have.
Stacy, you got anything?
I do, you have a water bill abatement request for 17 Summer Street. This is for, I believe, the December bill, which I explained to the resident at that point, according to our regs, to apply for an abatement. But he's adamant that during that time period, he did not use the amount of water that his meter registered. He lists a whole bunch of reasons why he believes that to be such.
Is the meter been checked?
I'm not sure if the guys went out to pay for that or if it was just coordinated.
Because that can
Took
tell you
a
that's
photo of the
everything.
meter to the last reading, so he took a photo of it to send in.
Correct.
So we didn't-
If the meter is accurate, that tells me everything. If it's not, that tells me everything.
What's this stuff about air in lines? If there's air in the lines, that means there's a leak somewhere there, isn't there?
No, we had fixed a service line leak on a house a couple doors down from him. He's
Yeah.
stating that he was saying that he had air. in
So
the
somebody
lines.
would have gotten in the system with that.
Yeah, but not enough to make it 40,000 gallons.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a lot of
everybody.
air.
If you look at his consumption, which I included in your packet, he's had all actual reads. So there's not even any estimates in there. And if you see the December bill, which is dated November 1st, that's when we read it. There's a 61,000 gallons of usage. That's what he's arguing. He's saying that he never uses any more than like 23,000 a quarter, and this was 61,000. So he's claiming he used about 40,000 gallons more than typical, but he can't explain why all of a sudden his meter went back to,
No.
his usage went back to normal, and neither can we, because we have no idea how to use it.
Could we just make sure we get a check on the meter? and-
Yeah, we can schedule an accuracy test to go out with an accuracy test on the meter. And,
Is it, can you get a printout of the accuracy test?
No.
Okay, so take the accuracy test and create a document that has. the
Yes, typically we do. Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, I just wanna understand, so even though the rules and regs state that if you wanna request an abatement within 30 days of the issue date of the bill, this was a December bill. you should have come to us.
Right,
January.
there's no abatement, I think we're
What I'm,
not here at all, we're just kind of
You
helping
just
them
wanna check the meter
understand
first?
that.
yeah,
deal with
because if
the-
he's got a bad meter, it's gonna happen again.
Okay,
Yeah.
alright.
I know where you're coming with that, and I don't have any
He's gonna
intention of
ask, but
breaking, violating
he's-
our rules.
He's gonna ask me, well, the bill is due in a couple days, and he did get a shut off notice. So do you want me to just pause that until we get an understanding of what's going on with the
Yes.
meter?
Yeah,
Okay,
they
Fine.
do.
alright,
In all my years of all the actually tests that I've performed, I've never seen a meter that failed in our favor. Anytime a meter fails, it always fails in the resident's favor.
Yeah,
Fails
it
to
doesn't
register
turn
water.
faster, it just stops turning.
I've never found one that over-registered, they only under-register, because they jam up.
that's a
with-
shock, because this thing's spinning all the time, isn't it just gonna get spinning faster?
Yeah, I mean, when they fail, they'll
Yeah.
fail to read anything registered, whether it's
Right.
you know, sand or solder. or
But
something
we
there.
need that documentation in
Sure.
order
and
to,
are we doing an accuracy test on that?
Yeah, if you wanna reach out to him, schedule just to rule out the meter.
Well, no, for
Look
the
at the
meantime,
months, he may have had a burst, over the winter months, so he may have had something that had burst outside that they discovered later on.
Okay,
but the bill is the bill, and we'll hold off on any shut off notice for now.
Okay.
But it's still-
alright,
Yeah, because as Stacy stated, he is past the opportunity
Yeah.
to contest the bill.
Way past.
and we have already denied people who have come
Yeah,
forward.
I
and
totally agree with
say,
you.
so.
totally agree with you.
Well, this itemized list.
Nothing else, motion to adjourn is
I
in
do have
order?
one question, are we gonna be, is it on the next schedule next time to discuss the DPW? Article? I know the board of selectmen is gonna be meeting tonight. The sewer commission's already voted, on the issue, are we gonna address that on the 22nd then,
Yes, we should,
Okay,
put on the list?
I can add that,
we should have a statement.
Yeah, before the town meeting, I want to go on the record.
okay,
And we'll be adjourned.
okay, okay, who seconded that?
I moved it,
Okay, oh, you.
oh, he moved it, I seconded it. Yeah, adjourned.
Who seconded, so voted.
There we go.